So for today, I had students start with these four. They're super simple factoring ones, and I need to remind them I can't possibly cover everything that is on both really hard chapter tests to get you ready for the cumulative all today. The good news is that I don't have to. I have to cover just part of it today, and then we review again tomorrow, and then we review again the next day, and then Friday. So 3 days of review, and then Friday is the cumulative. But today I want to warn you, you're going to be a little lost. It's all review, but you've forgotten a lot of stuff. All right, so take a second, and these four should have been doable. Please compare with the kid next to you. See if there's any of these you didn't get. All right, x plus 4 and x minus 4. 2 comes out, x plus 2. This guy's called the GCF. Does that ring a bell? Okay. Then this one, old-fashioned normal factoring, x and x. Since there's a negative in the problem, there must be one of these must be negative. Since the last number is negative, it has to be a negative and a positive. And then what makes a 4? Well, it's either 2 times 2 or 4 times 1. You realize it must be a 4 and a 1. And this must be 4 and this must be 1. And if you did it backwards by accident, you'd know because you checked the outside and the inside. All right, last but not least, this one. I will not call on you, but how many of you are confident you've got it? All right, that's 2/3 of you. All right, for the rest of you, here's what you think. You think, what goes here and here that makes 25x squared? And if you get that right, usually people can finish it. Did you guys know it was 5x and 5x? Raise your hand if you had that right. Good. Then, since it ends with the negative, must be a plus and a minus. And it's either 2 and 2 or 4 and 1. And in this kind, you want a 2 and a 2. There you go. Okay. Now, that is the easiest kind of factoring. The hardest kind was really important, and it's on not only the test that you get back today, was also on the homework that I give you for tonight. And so a ton of people had forgotten this. So let's see if you have got it or if you had forgotten it. Do you remember how to take something like this, x to the 4th, write this down please, plus 3x to the 3rd, plus 6x squared, plus 18x, and to factor it all the way and get the roots? And if you're like, nope, I don't remember that at all, at least do you see there's a GCF? Just do that. In math, it's so important to just try to make one thing better. Just do one part of it. One simple thing. Since everything has an x, you take the x out. And then you got an x to the 3rd. Plus 3x squared, plus 6x, plus 18. And then, do you remember the divide and conquer way of factoring, also known as factor by grouping? You group the first part, and you group the second part. Take a second. That kind of factoring. Don't want to make you wait too long. How many of you are already done with that? Raise your hand if you are already done with that. Okay, that's only half of you, so give it a little more time. And if you are done, you could take a second and just go back and put y equals at the front of this. There's a reason. I'll tell you in a sec. So what factors out of those two? X squared does, and you have an x plus 3. What factors out of these two? 6 does. You have to weirdly put a plus here. You either have to factor out positive 6 or negative 6. So I factored out positive 6, and I have an x plus 3 left. And the fact that these are the same tells you you're on the right track. Then x, the common factor becomes this. I put that first. You don't have to. And then the thing that's left over is the x squared plus 6. first of all, if you can get all the way there without me, nice work. You're in the top half of the class, because it's easy to forget that kind of stuff. But here's where a lot of people got stuck. What are the real and imaginary solutions? Take a second. Figure out the real and imaginaries. Remember, if you can only do one thing, do the one thing. So maybe in a second when I ask you to compare with the kid next to you, maybe you've only got the reals. Cool. Maybe they can show you how they set up to get the imaginaries, and maybe you can take it from there. All right, so when you're done, check with the kid next to you about the reals and imaginaries. Oh, quick reminder how this works. The real ones are like so easy you probably don't even do them right. Because what you really should do is say x plus 3 equals 0, and then you should solve it, because that's the point. It's like, what makes this 0? And I know, you probably just jumped to x equals negative 3. In this one, you should say x equals 0, and then you're like, well, it's already solved. X equals 0. So there's 2 real roots. And the ones that are imaginary, x squared plus 6 equals 0. You always set them equal to 0. And then you'll realize, oh crap, I have to square root a negative. That's what makes it imaginary. Then there's an I root 6. And the square root of x squared, I hope you remember that's the absolute value of x. Tons of kids don't put that. And then they forget the plus and the minus. If you have this, you will be smart enough to know that the answer isn't just one thing. You'll be smart enough to know this is stuck in there. That means something. Oh yeah, there's 2 answers. Okay, plus, that's what it is. Square root of x squared is the absolute value of x. It is. It's not x. If you just write x there, you're lying. It's the absolute value of x. All right, so then the final answer is plus and minus I root 6. Okay, and those are the imaginaries. All right, another thing that a ton of kids have forgotten is if it's an even degree, what does that mean? I'm going to give you a reminder. Here's one with an even degree. X to the 50th power. Negative x to the 50th power. Still an even degree. Plus 4x to the 36th power. Minus 8. So again, that's the degree. So what if it's an even degree? Do you even know what that tells you? Take a second. Talk to the kid next to you. What does that tell you? Even degree, what does it mean? All right, the ends go the same ways. They're either both up or both down. That's what that even degree means, is that they both go the same way. So what if it wasn't even? What if it was like x to the 37th degree? Then they go different ways. One ends up, one ends down. Okay? All right, so then how do you know which one's which? Because this tells you the right end. Remember how the negative in front would mean it's going down on the right? And this odd degree would tell you that they're going opposite directions. So if it's down on the right, it must be up on the left. It's coming back? All right. Now, there's so much more to remember. I'm not even going to talk about synthetic division today. I'm not even going to talk about what the graphs look like. I mean, I'll remind you just like, remember how there's some that, ooh, it's got an even root, because I can tell, you know, by counting these up how many roots there are, and some are double roots and some are single roots. And so I'll talk about those tomorrow. But what I definitely want to make sure you're up on is some of the questions for the test that you're about to get back. Okay, so there was some hard questions on there, of course. This is called a rationals test. And here's like a baby level one to start with. Everybody write this down. X minus 3 on top. X minus 3 on the bottom. But also an x plus 2 on the bottom. You should be able to tell me 4 things. The domain. Int, it's a list of all the things that you can put in the function. So it starts with the all reals. That is a math symbol, that double bar R. Okay. You should also be able to tell me where the hole is. The vertical asymptote. Sometimes there's more than one. And the horizontal asymptote. And I'm going to take just a second to remind you of those rules before I ask you to finish this question. Here's the horizontal asymptote rules. Do you remember it's either bigger on top, bigger on bottom, or same on both? But if you write that as your part of your math work, it will get 0 credit because on the AP tests, they don't know what that means. That is not a math thing. That's me reminding you to look and see if it's bigger degree on top, and if so, you need to know what it means. That means that the y equals asymptote. This is the HA rules. And if these are not coming back to you, you should write them down because you need to memorize them by Friday. Nobody. Who had no in their head? You knew it was no. Awesome. That's stuck in your head. That's good. That means there's no asymptotes. If it's bigger degree on top, there's no asymptotes. How about Bob? That means bigger on the bottom. Bigger degree on the bottom. Like, for example, 1 over x plus 5. That has a bigger degree on the bottom, so that's a Bob. Some teachers actually teach this wrong because they oversimplify it and they say it's y equals 0. It's always 0. No, it's not. But it's often 0. And does anybody remember the one word that would fix it? Bobs are usually 0, but they're for sure whatever's close outside. Ooh, somebody said it. Because, see, if you have this equation, there is nothing on the outside. So, the asymptote is y equals 0, because there's nothing on the outside. As soon as you put like a plus 3 here, the whole thing would move up 3, and then the asymptote would be at 3. So it's whatever's on the outside. See, if you oversimplify it, it is usually 0, because there's usually nothing on the outside. And if you just say it's always y equals 0, then you better not give the kids any that got shifted up or down. And then that would work. It's usually y equals 0 for Bob. Okay, and then the last one is same on both. And the same on both kind. That's a ratio. See if that brings it back. Ratio of what? Yes. LCs. Lead coefficients. The ratio of the lead coefficients. All right. Taking notes? That's what's going to help you get the A on Friday as opposed to just like the B. Ratio of the lead coefficients. So, let's give you an example of a same on both. Would you agree that this is the same degree on both? All right. Because it's degree 1 on the top and it's degree 1 on the bottom. So then, if it's the same on both, would you please talk to the kid next to you about what is the horizontal asymptote then? What is it? If a kid said 2 over 4, it's kind of right. What should it really be? 1/2. Good. Y equals 1/2 is where the asymptote would be because it's a ratio of the lead coefficients. All right. Next up, on the test I'm about to give you back, you had somewhere they would give you like an equation. That looks like a parabola that's been shifted up. But then there's a hole, like right there. And I'm going to specifically go in and erase out like that and put it right above, let's say 1. Let's say it's shifted up 3. Can you give me the equation for this? Hint, don't even think about the hole. Just write the equation for it without the hole. Then go back and stick something in the equation that would create the hole. You're going to want a partner on this one. So, you know who I usually pair you with, rows 1 and 2, rows 3 and 4. if you don't even know how to start, hint, it's a parabola. It's been shifted up 3 spots. You should be able to write that equation. All right, please talk to the kid next to you while I pause. Okay, let's see if this came back. So to start with, I would say it's a parabola, x squared, but it's been shifted up 3 plus 3. But wait, there's a hole in it, and the hole has to be something like this. You put them all in parentheses. Did you remember the parentheses? And then there's a hole at 1 is x not plus 1, x minus 1. I think I figured out you were off for 17 days, so I totally would understand if this was not coming back easy. But who actually had it before I showed it? Nice. All right, cool. So, next up, if you were going to graph, and I would say the test I'm about to hand back to everybody, there were 2 graph problems that were the worst. Like that was out of everything, I marked it wrong by far more than anything else. So here is a good typical graph this rational function question. Everybody write this down, and we're not even going to graph it. I'm going to just show you how, if you do all the work ahead of time, the actual graph at the end is easy, but people didn't do the work ahead of time right. So write this down, x to the third minus 3x squared plus x minus 3 all over x minus 3. And if you do all the work ahead of time, like figuring out how to factor the top, how to cancel stuff, figure out where the hole is, figure out where the vertical asymptote is and where the horizontal asymptote is, then the actual graph, just putting that all on a graph isn't that hard. So take a second, do all the lead up work. I'll pause. We do the factoring, careful with the factoring. You can't just cancel the x minus 3's there, that does not work. The x minus 3 on the top is part of an add problem. All right, so remember 17 days ago when you took the test? This one, about half the class got wrong, and you were at the top of your game back then. So I totally get if this is hard for you right now. Okay. So first off, I noticed that this can be divided and conquered. And so you'd have x squared come out, and then you'd have an x minus 3. And then over here, you'd have to factor out a 1. A lot of people forget that little 1, and it's really important. Because if you don't have it, then you'll think that when this comes out to the front, you'll think that there isn't anything there, but there is. So the top ends up being the x minus 3 that was the common factor, and then an x squared plus 1 on the top. Okay? Then on the bottom you have an x minus 3, on the top you have an x minus 3, and those can cancel. Yay! Be honest. How many of you actually wrote the simplified answer, which is y equals x squared plus 1? Did anybody actually write that? See, that's only about a third of the class, and that's about how many people get it right. Because if you don't actually write the simplified thing, how are you going to graph it? And once you do write it, isn't it pretty easy? That's just graphing a parabola that's been moved where? Up 1. It's not that hard. But if you don't write that, look at how complicated that looks. And if you don't simplify it down to that, you're going to get lost in the middle of the graph. All right, and is it just a parabola shifted up 1? No, there's one other little thing. Remember that thing that canceled? What does that make? A hole. And the hole is at 3. So then what would that look like? Here's a parabola shifted up 1 that has a hole at 3. I go over 3. I go up wherever is right above that. Put an empty spot right there. And there's my graph that's been shifted up 1 with a hole right above the 3. All right, cool. Now, does that cover absolutely everything? Of course not. There's still stuff that you're going to have to walk up and ask me because it's been too long. But you have 2 parts. You're going to get this test back, and a fair number of you got an A. Yay! You have nothing else to do except the homework. So let's start the homework right now. so you can see where it is, what it looks like. Everybody look, there's only one thing open in the folder. There's more stuff coming. I'll be giving you the rest of it tomorrow and the next day, but for today, there's only one worksheet. It's right there. Do that worksheet. Why would I have you do that many problems? Because it's not due till Friday. And honestly, all of these are important. You got to know how to do all of them. None of them are hard if you remember how to do this stuff. All right, so find that worksheet. Would you please read me number 1? Andy, I think you're there. Andrew, could you read it? Oh, can you? That'll work. Okay, so y equals 2x to the third minus 4x plus 5x to the fifth minus 1. And it looks like they just want to know the degree and the leading coefficient. Well, that's pretty easy if you know what those are. Unless I copied this wrong, I think that's the lead. Did I copy it right, and is that the lead? Okay, because it's got the biggest degree.
Is that a 5 or a 3?
I think it's a 5.
It's a 5.
Is it a power of 5 actually on the worksheet? Okay, good.
It's 5x.
It is a gruesome looking 5. I'll clean that up. And there. Okay, now that's the lead. So if that's the lead, that one tells me the degree, which is 5. And the leading coefficient, well, if this is the lead, then that's the lead coefficient, which is also a 5. Okay. Cool. Now, what if they had asked me, like, does it going up or down on the right? This thing would tell me it's going up on the right. Since it's odd, they'd be going different directions on the left and the right. All right. Okay, you're now into your homework. You now know that your job is to finish that, but I'm going to take the time right now to hand back those tests. There's 1 or 2 of you that haven't taken the test. I want you to meet me up at my desk first, though, so I can send you out in the hall with something to do while they look over their tests. And that's all I got for the video for today.